A commission from the International Monetary Fund arrived to Ecuador on Monday to ensure the country is adhering to the conditions imposed in exchange for a $4.2 billion loan. This visit is part of a quarterly evaluations planned by the IMF in order to approve the loan, which was requested by Lenín Moreno's government. In March, Ecuador received the first payment, which is conditioned on measures like reducing government spending and a tax reform, among other neoliberal austerity measures highly unpopular with the working class. And earlier, I spoke with independent journalist and researcher Denis Rogatyuk, who specializes in Latin American politics. I asked Denis about the Ecuadorian government's case against activist and software developer Ola Bini.
Ola Bini's collaboration with Julian Assange never went beyond him being a personal friend of Julian, of visiting Julian at the Ecuadorian embassy in London, and of expressing admiration for the work of WikiLeaks. Now, if we look at the actual legal case which the Ecuadorian justice system is pursuing against Ola Bini, the only relevant pieces of evidence it is actually using in its trial against him are books on piracy hacktivism, as well as iPods, iPads, laptops, telephones, and other equipment that he would use. That he was using as a software engineer living in Ecuador for the last 6 months. So there really is absolutely the legal case itself is completely absurd.
You have said previously that Ecuador has seen a growing campaign to censor media and repress speech by political opponents. What happened? Some examples of that.
In the last few months, since the first publication of the inner papers and the details of Moreno's bank accounts, we've seen outlets like Ecuadorean Mediato, Ruta Crítica online journal, Radio Pechinche Universal, and Hechos Ecuador website having been either censored, experienced a large number of online attacks, or had their broadcasting signal cut, or have been forced off air by the Ministry of Communication or the Moreno government supporters. Also, we've seen many journalists and communications experts who actively opposed the government of Lenín Moreno, such as Fernando Alvarado, Marco Antonio Bravo, Carlos Bravo, Patricio Pacheco, Carlos Cho, and Richard Macias, also suffering persecution and harassment at the hands of both the pro-Moreno political forces and the justice system as well.
And I also asked Denis about the case against Ecuador's former Foreign Minister Ricardo Patiño.
The issuing of a pre-trial arrest warrant for Ricardo Patiño, who was the former foreign minister of Ecuador, as well as being a key a key historic leader of the citizens' revolution in Ecuador, as he also played a crucial role in the establishment of the Union of South American Nations, as well as helping to arrange the asylum for Julian Assange in the first place. Patiño was actually forced into exile or at least temporarily, on April 17th, and is currently residing in Mexico. The context of the arrest warrant itself seems to be just as absurd as the charges laid against Ola Bini. In fact, it has to do with Patiño's speech, which he gave at an internal party meeting in October 2018, in which he called for a combative resistance against the Moreno government, and as well as encouraging supporters to seize public institutions as the best means of overcoming Moreno's neoliberal policies and repression. This is the basis, the legal basis on which the Ecuadorian government is persecuting Ricardo Patiño, which, as I said again, is nothing more than a witch hunt against the historic leaders of the citizens' revolution, and just another way for Moreno to repress his political opponents in the country.